what are the pros, do you think, of like bootstrapping versus not bootstrapping?
Cool. So once again, it's determined by what your objectives are in business, right? Some people want to take over the world and become super profitable and be the Mark Zuckerberg essentially. And some people just want to be in the scene because they love it and they want to create a good lifestyle. They don't like the 9-to-5 job. They just want to hang out with their friends, create cool stuff, make a difference, and make good money. The bootstrap version allows you to do that. It allows you to do that well and not have to answer to anybody. When you start to get investment, all of a sudden there's a whole new level of due diligence and governance and reporting that you need to worry about. And so it's not just, hey, I need to protect myself and my family and my staff. It's your shareholders and their businesses and everything that they're investing into your business. So in my opinion, it's good to start off bootstrap. When we did it, it was just the best fun. Like, we were nailing it, we were selling, we were getting in revenue, we could do whatever we want, spend the money wherever you want, having heaps of parties, all that type of stuff. And then you get investment and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, why did you get 40 kilos of lamb? And so you're starting to have to answer everyone. And as soon as you do something wrong, or what they perceive to be wrong, you have to answer for it. And then you have to manage that relationship. And it's stressful. But it's important if you want to achieve growth and fast growth and go global, that you do get proper resourcing and strategic investors behind you to leverage their experience.
Yeah, no, that's really insightful, right? Because you've done it on both sides. Like, you've raised money and you've also bootstrapped, right? For people who are bootstrapping, it's hard to give them like a guide to bootstrapping, but what should they look out for and what should they be wary of, right? For one thing could be just keeping in mind their burn rate, make sure they don't run out of money if they are bootstrapping, and timing when you should go after money.
Yeah, okay. So the time you should go after money is when you put a plan into place and you're like, well, I want to generate $3 million of revenue this year, and you're going to need 6 salespeople, 7 engineers, this office, blah, blah, blah. And so then you go, oh, I've got $5,000 in the bank. Obviously I can't do that, right? So you're going to need to get funds. And that can be from a variety of places, but most common is from an investor. But when you bootstrap a business, I started it with my mate, and we essentially had about 10K left on our credit cards, and we quit our jobs, and I had no money. I just got back from overseas, and we said, all right, we're going to do this 100%. We're going to max out our credit cards, and we're going to make sure that money comes in to be able to cover the costs of running the business. Now, the cost of running the business at that time was very minimal, right? You set up your entity, it cost you a few grand, it's not much, but building a platform is the most expensive component. But you can live for ages off your parents when you're, right? So we worked out of my best mate's parents' bedroom, and we didn't have desks or anything like that. We literally used old computers, and were making phone calls from their landline. And essentially, as I told you, we built a PowerPoint presentation, and we said, all right, well, we need to get X amount of sales this month to be able to cover the costs of building the software. And it was going to cost 20 grand as the MVP. So I knew that we needed to visit businesses to close the deal and generate X amount of revenue. Now, I didn't know how to sell, right? I've only ever run at this stage cafes and restaurants and, been involved in nightclubs and stuff like that. So sales was very foreign to me. My business partner, he had a lot of sales experience, but he was always pissing people off. So he didn't want to go out on the road. So his objective was to train me to go out there on behalf of the company and start closing the deals. But to start with, he was like, all right, well, call everyone you know. Everyone that has a business, call them and try to pitch, and I'm going to record you. And so I would call, and I would say all this stuff that made no sense, and there was no clarity, and people would be like, what are you talking about? And I didn't realize how silly I sounded until I listened to myself afterwards. And then it taught me a lot. It taught me how to refine my pitch. It taught me that I need to script everything, rehearse it, consolidate it, remove all of the words that don't achieve your objective. And then eventually I got to a point where I was booking about 20 meetings, 30 meetings a day. And I would book out my weeks and book 8 meetings a day. And then I would go out on the road and go through that same process. And I'd be pitching off a PowerPoint presentation saying, this is the best thing ever. You need to buy it. It's going to cost you 15 grand. It's never been proven. We were the first to market. And so basically someone had to believe in your vision. And so, after 30 to 50 rejections, someone finally caved and paid that money. And then with that money, we went and found an engineer and said, hey, we want to build this. Will you do the job? And we bartered him down to a very low cost, and he agreed to do it. And while he was building it, as I said before, I kept calling, I kept meeting, and then I closed more deals. And eventually, 50K came into the bank, and we still didn't have a product, right? But the product was being built. We gave them proper lead times. It would take 6 months before you get your product, you'll still be first to market. And they're happy. Just manage their expectations. But with a bootstrap business, it's just so important to focus heavily on that sales process and get it right. Bring that revenue in, build the product. When the product's out there and you start to get traction with that product, you know how to generate revenue from it. You go to an investor, they're like, he's a good business person. I'm going to invest in him. And then you start to grow based on a business model with proper licensing fees and upfront fees that will scale up properly.
That's awesome. Like the demeanor that comes off Matt, right? Like he's obviously somebody who's really successful, has developed into somebody who's a very seasoned businessman, right? During that process though, when you were getting to that stage, did you ever have times where you just doubted yourself? And like when you did, or if you did, how did you get over it?
Good question.
Yeah. That wasn't on the script.
No, that's okay. I doubt myself in different parts of the business, parts that I'm unfamiliar with. That's why having a business partner they need to have complementary skills to you. My strong point wasn't legal. So he would take the lead of that and I would go over it after he did. And you learn a lot by making mistakes, right? But eventually you just have to put confidence in yourself. And if you don't know something, you get someone who knows it better. And that's how you build your team out in your business. And eventually you have very talented people around you that know what they're doing. Yeah. And sometimes, like I've got, my pretty much VP of engineering, Johnny, he's around here somewhere. I don't know how to code, right? But I put trust in him that he knows how to do it. He has a lot of experience. He's very skilled. And so you need to put trust in your team members.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome answer. No, it is the answer. But, okay, cool. So when somebody is bootstrapping a startup, when do they know is the right time to change that?
As I said, when you do your financial projections and realize that the only way you're going to achieve that is by getting more money in, that's the point in time that you need to start putting your investment documents into place and start going out to the road and raising money.
Yeah, cool. Are there any things you would warn against, like once you've actually raised? So it's like, okay, so that's the lifestyle when you're bootstrapping, they're the things to look out for. So say you get your investor money in, you kind of flag that you have to live up to their expectations or you have to play by their rules.
Yeah.
Are there anything like any guidelines or any pearls of wisdom you'd give them?
Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Okay, that is just in business. It gets you into the worst places, even with your clients, with your investors. We've done it before. It's a bad position to be in. Your investors are investing into you to achieve the plan that you've put in place. And now that's very hard. Not many people actually achieve that plan, so don't feel bad if you don't do it. But during the process, if you're going to pivot or you don't hit a goal, make sure that you're transparent. Make sure you're letting them know why you haven't hit that goal and what the plan is outside of that goal. So, but you need to manage them. You need to account manage them, right? So once a month, send them an email, send them a report, give them access to your finances. Let them know that you are working hard for their money.
That's awesome, guys. That's all my questions. Before I throw it over to the floor, this is something we asked Brennan. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing before you started Loke Digital, what would it be?
Be global from day one.
Yeah.
So important. In the tech startup world in Australia, these investors, they're thinking, okay, I want to make as much money as possible, and they've got so many people trying to get money from them, and you're one of many, and so many of those businesses have got a market that is global. So they're going to make much more money than you. It doesn't matter what product you have. If you're staying in Australia, there's only a limited amount of people that you can sell to. So if it was my advice, make sure you build your platform to be as scalable as possible from day one.
Awesome, guys. I'll open up the floor to any questions now.
Awesome.
Awesome, cool. Thank everyone. Okay, yep.
Okay. So you talked about basically living off the cost of your parents, and I'm looking around the room and I'm noticing that for many in the audience, that's not actually a practical opportunity for them.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us actually not living at home anymore.
Yeah.
So given that you're bootstrapped,
Yeah.
so let's take the alternative play for somebody who is a little older.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first, my parents don't have any money, right? My father is on a disability pension. So when I say live off your parents, I mean like if your mum's cooking food that night, you go to her house and you eat that food, right? You portion that stuff out. I mean, you put bananas in your backpack and you go sleep at your mate's house. But it's the same position. So even if you're older, right? If I started a business now and I didn't have money, right? What I would do was try and get access to a little bit of funds that can last me, say, 3 months. And I could probably live on, let's say, a couple grand a month if I needed to, if I had no money. And so from there, that 3-month period, make sure you have a plan in place which is heavily invested into sales. Everything needs to be about sales when you're bootstrapping your company, okay? So go out there and sign clients. And after a 3-month period, if you haven't signed up the clients and got them to pay you, you need to start reevaluating your business and your product. But that's the only way that you can do it, is putting sales first and literally, maxing out any type of credit line that you have during that period. Yep.
You touched on sales a little bit. Did you change your product or vision depending on the sales response that you were getting from people?
That's a good question. It definitely has been refined over the years. Our product is constantly evolving. But one thing you'll notice is if you go out to the market and you speak to 100 people, a large percentage of those people will think they know better. And they'll be like, you know what, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? Or look at that other business over there. And it makes you doubt yourself if you've actually got the right product and the right market fit. But the thing is, you're the visionary. That's why you are in this business. So you need to back yourself and you need to keep going. And eventually you will find the right person that believes in your vision and will pay you for that. And then from there, when you build out your product, take the feedback on, log it, prioritize it. The one that's in the highest demand is the one that goes into your product pipeline or your innovation pipeline.
Awesome, guys. We're going to thank Matt. He's going to have to run off for today, but thank you so much for coming down.
Thanks, man.